Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm sewing. So what am I sewing? I have my grandchildren visit me on a regular basis. I do have clothes here for them, but they're growing. They're getting out of them. So I'm going to make some pajamas. And I've got this beautiful fabric. I don't think it will show up on screen as beautiful as it is. So it's got like a shell pattern in it, and it's got sparkles on it, and it's really plush and soft and really cuddly. So I'm sure that my granddaughter will just love that for her pajamas. And so we'll get onto that and we'll make them. So I've just laid my pattern pieces out on my fabric here, and we need to cut 2 of each, so the fabric is doubled over, and I've got the fold on this end here. That way whatever's left, it's maximizing the fabric, so I'll have a big piece when I open that up. So we'll just cut this out and then we'll do our next job. So it's a little bit awkward for me to get around, so I'm just doing what I can, and then I'll come back and neaten that up. Right, I can take this away and fold that up now. Now, if you're new to sewing, one of the main things that you need when you're sewing are good scissors, really good fabric scissors. And there should be a rule that you don't use them for anything else. You don't cut paper, you don't do anything but cut your fabric with the scissors. I've had many different scissors over the years. I used to always use a scissor brand called Sharp, but I'm using Fiskars, and I find these absolutely the best. They make a whole lot of products. I use them for secateurs in the garden as well. Excellent range of products. But these scissors are just easy to handle. I found the Sharp were heavy scissors because they didn't have the plastic handle. And if you've got anything like arthritis or problems with your hands, the easier you can make it, the better. So light scissors for me, or lighter scissors, are better. That's why another reason why I prefer these. Okay. Right, so we've got our front and our back, and we just need to sew them up. So I'm at my sewing machine now and I'm just going to take the pattern off the pieces that I've cut. So I've got my pattern pieces here in my hand, and they're still as I cut them. So I'm just going to put them right sides together. So there I've got, so that's got the front and the back, and the front and the back. and the right side of the fabric is on the inside. This is a very easy fabric to tell the difference because there's sparkles on the outside and none on the inside. So I'm just going to do the outside seam. Zeus. And this is stretch fabric, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of stretch as I sew, not too much. I'm just going back, locking that first stitch in. Now this is too soft and fluffy for my machine foot to push through, so it's going to need a little help from me. Just straightening it up there. So we just come back when I've sewn up both seams. So I've done the outside leg and now I'm just going to sew the inside leg. Again, starting at the bottom, locking the stitch in. And we'll come back when I've finished that seam. Okay, so let's do that again. So I have sewn the inside leg and the outside leg on both the leg pieces, and you can see that I have overlocked them. And what I'm going to do now is to take one of those and put it right side out. So you can see the outside of the fabric there, the right side. Now I'm taking, that's the leg piece there. This is the middle seam where both legs join. And I'm going to take that, open it up, put my hand down. Then I'm going to take the other leg, which is the wrong way around, and I'm going to feed that down into that leg so that the inside leg seams match up. So there we go, I've got both of them there. They're matching up at the top and at the bottom. Just going to pull them straight. Now what that gives me is the raw seam for the back side, the front and the crutch area. And I'm just going to sew all that now and overlock it, and then I'll be back. So I've sewn up both seams, the outside and the inner seam of the pants, and then I've sewn all around the crutch area, and I have overlocked it all, and I've also overlocked the waist area. So the next thing we need to do is to put some cuffs on here. So what I've got here, this fabric at the back, is what's it called? Rib trim. It's called rib trim. So if you look very closely, I don't know if it'll show up, it's very stretchy and there is a rib. You can see the ribs in it. So it's very stretchy there. Now I've stretched that one out, and what you can see down here is that I cut it so it's 3/4 of the length of the pants. Now just remember this looks a little longer than 3/4, but I've got to put a seam down there. So that will bring it back to the 3/4 mark. So I'm going to put a seam on both of those, and then I'm going to attach it to the legs. So I'll just sew that and then I'll come back and show you what I'm going to be doing. So the next thing I'm going to do is to divide the legs into quarters, and I'm going to divide the rib trim into quarters. So we've already got halfway marked, so we just have to mark the other points, so front and back. And then what we do is I'm just folding this in half, opening up that seam, flattening it down with my fingers there. I'm just flattening down that seam, and then I'm going to fold that back on itself. There we go. Make it even all the way around. Okay, now we need to put these the right way around. Now this is the leg that I have marked off in quarters. Now we're just going to slip this over. Now what I need to be careful of here is I've got a seam on this, so I want that seam on the inside leg. So I'm just popping that over. I didn't mark this in quarters yet. So I'll go back and mark it in quarters. Okay, now once again, putting that over, lining that seam up with the inside leg seam. And then we're going to pin that in place. Then we're just matching up our pins here, our quarter mark on the rib trim with the quarter mark on the pants. And just pinning that in place. And I'm just doing that all the way around, just marking or matching up the quarter way marks and pinning them together. Now what I need to do is to sew that on. As I'm sewing, I will be stretching that out a little bit. Right, so we've matched up all our quarters on both legs, and now I'm just about to sew that on. So what I'm going to do is, again, look for the inside leg seam and start there. Now I'll just take this piece off my machine. Just take this piece off my machine, which will allow me to put that over like that. Now I'm just making sure that all seams are lined up there. I need to take out the pin. Didn't bring my pin cushion with me. Lift that up, pop it all down. Right. Now as I go around, the rib trim is smaller than the leg of the pants, so I need to stretch out that rib trim as I'm sewing. So just doing a back stitch there to lock the stitch in, and off we go, just stretching it. Back to the beginning, locking the stitch in again, and now just trimming all that up. And then we'll do the other leg. So there it is, it's folded back the right way. But what I'm going to do first, before I do that with both of them, I'm going to use an overlocker to overlock that edge and neaten it up. Right, so we've done both our legs there, both the bottoms are done, and now I just need to do the waist. So what I'm going to be doing with the waist, we can either do it two ways. I can do a sew-on waistband, but with this one, I'm not. I'm just going to fold it down with an allowance for the elastic, Just fold that over and hem it, and that way when my granddaughter comes, I can measure her for the elastic, thread it through, and just hand sew it to finish it off. So I just need to know which is the front and the back, and I'll just start at the back there, so that's where the opening's going to be. And there we have it. I have sewn the waistband. So with the waistband, there's an opening there where I can thread the elastic through, and then I'll just close that off with some hand sewing. And just for a view of all of the pants, here we go. There we go, there's the bottom of them, and there's the top. So there you have it. Now I'll just have to cut out the top, and we'll sew that. So for the top, I'm going to be using a pattern which is a raglan sleeve, which means that there's no seam coming across here. The seam actually comes up from under the arm and up here, so that the sleeve has no seams in it across the shoulder, and it's more comfortable for wearing if you're sleeping. So that's why I'm using the raglan. So let's lay out the fabric and cut it out. So I've got my fabric laid out here. Both of these, the front and back piece, need to be cut on the fold, so that's why I've got them like that. I'll cut them out. So I've cut out all the pattern pieces here, two sleeves, a front and a back. Now, my granddaughter asked me if I could put a picture on the front for her. So I'm going to do an applique. Now, I have done another video with an applique, which I'll put a link to in the description, so I won't go through the applique process in this video. So I've applied a picture, as requested by my granddaughter. So that's an applique that I've put on the front for her. And now we'll get busy making our raglan sleeve top. So I'll just take these pins out, take the pattern off the fabric. Oh, one more pin. And the sleeves. Okay, now with this one, what we need to do is first to join the sleeves onto these seams here. So this is the neck edge of the sleeve and the neck edge of the garment. So we're just going to sew those together, and I'll do both sleeves and then we'll come back. Okay, so I've sewn the sleeve edges to the front. Now we just have to do the same with the back of the garment. So we just need to get our neck edge and line that up with the neck edge of the sleeve, having the right sides together. Then we'll just sew both seams, overlock them, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I have done all 4 seams to get those sleeves sewn onto the main part of the garment. Now what I've got left to do is to close off the sleeves. That's the sleeve there, and then we've got the side of the garment. So it's just one long seam going all the way down. So we'll go and do that and overlock it and then come back. Okay, so there you have it. I've sewn it all up. I've done all the overlocking of all the seams. So it was quite simple. There were just 4 seams, 2 for each sleeve there. and then there was one seam which went from the sleeve, underarm, all the way down to the side of the body. So 6 seams in all, and now we need to put rib trim on. So we need to trim it around the neck, we need to trim it around the sleeves, and we need to trim it around the waist. So I'm just going to cut my rib trim now for that, and once we've done that, we'll come back. So we're following the same procedure as before. We've put a seam in the rib trim, and now we're marking the quarter marks with a pin. And now we need to do the same to the garment. We need to mark the quarter marks. So I'm just marking the centre front and centre back. Pop those together, and then we'll get our quarter marks on the sleeves. Right, so they're all marked off. Now we get our rib trim, and where we have the seam in our rib trim, we're putting that to the centre back. So we're just popping it over. This goes, right. So this goes over, and we just pull that through. Now we're just going to match up those centre back and all the other pin marks, match them up. This is the sleeve, centre of the sleeve. I'll just take that one out and pin that together. Now the centre front. And the other centre of the sleeve. Sorry, the centre of the other sleeve. There we go. Right, now we just need to, I'm just showing you how I've got that. So here's your garment, and this is over the top, and the raw edges are together, and I'm going to go around and do a seam, and then I'm going to do a overlock on stitch on it. Now the thing we need to keep in mind with the rib trim, which any rib trim, but particularly the neck, this is going to go over the head, so it needs to stretch. So as we're sewing, we need to put that stretch in, so we stretch it as we sew. Not too much, but we need to put some stretch in there. So I'm going to go and sew that, and then I'll come back. So there is the neck edge all done. And we just need to repeat that step with the sleeves and the bottom. So we'll do all that and then come back. And there we have it. There we have the top of the pajamas. And here we have the pajama pants. Just need to put the elastic in there, and they're all finished. And I'm sure that my granddaughter's going to love it. So thank you for joining me on this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you do have any questions, if I haven't explained something properly in this video, please leave them in the comments. And if you make something, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for joining me.